Back on the Patrick Netherton Show, 11:30 The Tiger. That guy over there is Rogers Hampton. I'm Patrick Netherton. We're pleased to have you with us, and we're very pleased to welcome in the head baseball coach of the Northwestern State Demons. And, by the way, aspiring barbecue smoke pitmaster, Bobby Barbier. Coach, how are you?
Got to be diverse, Patrick.
Hey, well, I mean, especially this day and age. What do what are you doing otherwise? Just kind of hanging out, right? Do you go out on the field and just, do you simulate games now? Like they always talk about, basketball players would go in and simulate, spots in the gym in the dark. Like, you just go sit in the dugout and send in pitching signals to no one and go through games in your mind now?
Well, we're not even supposed to really be at the field.
Well, that's true.
Even though I may get over there a time or two. But, my job during the game is really not that difficult. It's a lot easier than yours. So there's really not a whole lot of mental practice that I need.
Yeah, that's true.
But our time at practice is a little different.
Tell me,
yeah, it's been different, man.
Tell me about the barbecue cooking, because you've sent me some pictures of you've been putting some briskets on, you've been doing some different things. Tell me about the interest in getting a little barbecue cooking in.
Well, brisket has been the thing that has eluded me for a long time. I've screwed up quite a few expensive pieces of meat, but I'm more of a gravy and gumbo kind of guy. But yeah, I've been trying to cook a little bit. Since we got time off, it's been going well. So I'll buy another one here, a couple of days, I guess, and do it all over again.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what my phone number is. If you need a taste tester, I'm always available.
I understand. That's why I send you pictures all the time.
I appreciate and hate you for that. Both at the same time. And also, by the way, most of the show the last 2 days has been spent on trying to figure out ways to smuggle barbecue from Texas into Louisiana now, with the travel ban.
Yeah, you got a little problem with that
now.
Your trips out to Riverport are under attack.
Speaking of that, because I don't know that people understand. You just had a kid from in Natchitoches that committed to you, and I don't know that you can speak to that or not, but it was on his Twitter feed that he committed to play for you. But what is recruiting like in this era? I mean, look, we already know that a lot of this is electronic anyway, FaceTimes and text messages and stuff, and obviously there's no baseball being played for you to go watch. But what are you doing in terms of trying to make sure that you're still looking at and staying in touch with the kids that you are looking to recruit and bring in the future?
Well, we have a list, of kids that we've seen and that we've had decisions kind of made on for the most part. So, we try to keep in touch with those guys. Obviously can't go out and watch anybody. There's nothing being played right now. I think probably the group that hurts the worst out of all of this from at least baseball perspective is those seniors, in high school right now. I mean, those guys, there's a lot of guys, we always sign one or two, late bloomers. I mean, we have kind of our recruiting model, which is a lot different than a lot of these bigger schools models that get these commitments from the freshmen and sophomores. We go the other way. We don't try to fight them on those guys. We wait to watch guys get better, we really put a lot of salt into that. So, that kind of stinks for those guys that that had their years cut short, and that guys like us that kind of recruit a little later don't get a chance to get out and see them. So there's really not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot to go watch, and with the roster situation like it is now, it's almost I guess a blessing the way that we do it. Meaning, we're in a lot better shape than a lot of schools. I'll put it that way as far as roster size coming in. The senior deal is tough for a lot of teams. We got 5 returning. 5 seniors that are going to come back. I know some coaches I talked to yesterday have 14.
Yeah.
So if you have 14 seniors, what does that mean? You signed 14 freshmen, coming in. So I mean, you got 28 of your 35, or expand it with the seniors that are right there in 2 classes. So it's going to make it tough on a lot of guys. We're pretty fortunate. We're not going to be in a situation like that.
Tell me a little bit about. And I know that this vote has been coming, so I know that y'all have been working through logistics for this. But tell me just some of the things, some of the minutia, some of the stuff that you've had to deal with in terms of, okay, now the vote's here. The vote says everyone gets their year back. However, scholarships now become negotiable. You don't necessarily have to give the same amount to the kid that he had before. And so I know some coaches are going to use that to maybe, kind of get rid of some kids, for lack of a better term. I know it's not really your style, but I'm curious how much planning has already been in place for whatever route the NCAA committee decided to go with this.
Well, if I've learned anything through this process, is planning doesn't do you a whole lot of good.
Yeah.
I was on a bus, about to get on the bus to go to New Orleans, and 3 hours later, the whole season was canceled, and the bus was sitting outside. Now, we do have an idea. We had an idea what we wanted to do, and there's not a whole lot to be done on our end because I think of our situation. The roster was in a decent spot to where we don't have 55 players showing up in August. I think that's the problem with a lot of these teams is just having the sheer numbers. Yeah, you can increase, and I'm so glad they gave these kids an extra year, and you can increase spots, but that doesn't increase beds, and it doesn't increase. You only play 9, so you're bringing in 30 position players. You're gonna have a tough time trying to get reps on a 20-hour week. That's the other part that kind of gets overlooked is next year's class, right? So next year's signing class to where my scholarship page for this year and next year looks exactly the same because we don't have anybody coming off of it. So that's those 2021 graduates. Those are going to be the ones that are also, because now you have a 14, 15 person freshman class on campus in August because you got your freshmen from last year and your freshmen from this year. Well, those numbers start to bunch up, and with junior colleges giving their guys an extra year again too, it just makes it really, really crowded. It makes it really, really crowded.
There's also some intriguing aspects of this just on a case-by-case basis. And I brought up Kyle Swanson, who I think is maybe he and your Friday night guy, Logan Hoffman, are maybe the two most intriguing guys on your squad in terms of seniors that may or may not come back, because a guy like Kyle Swanson's, he's accepted to medical school. He can, he's got his future in front of him, and yet he was having the best season of his career. He was your closer. He had bounced back after a couple of injuries, had derailed him a little bit. I'm just curious, and I don't necessarily need to know about what you've talked about in terms of the decision, but I've got to imagine this is a heck of a place for a kid like that to be, because his future is right there in front of him. He's going to be a doctor. That's right there. Can you postpone that to come back and fulfill your dream of having that senior season that you want? And what have you had conversations, and are you, can you fill us in on some of the stuff that you and he have talked about?
Sure. Yeah. And Kyle is he was writing the greatest story that you've ever, you could have written books. Kyle. So when I accepted the pitching job here, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever that was, my first recruiting trip was to Houston to watch Kyle Swanson catch in the All-Star game, the junior All-Star game. And he was already committed to us at the time, and I really liked him as a catcher. Well, over the course of his career, he became a pitcher for us and battled injury after injury and lots of back injuries. And he finally got that thing dialed in to where he was as reliable at the back end of the game as anybody we've ever had. And he was doing such a good job. And Kyle's gonna give a lot more to our society than his pitching ability. Right. Unfortunately for us, but fortunately for everybody else. But he is going to go to medical school. He's going to start medical school in August, and me and him, that decision was made pretty quickly. Yeah. Just so proud of him. He's been an unbelievable ambassador. He's a 4.0 every semester. He's always, a quick story about Kyle. And we're at Southern this year, and I probably shouldn't say all my faults, but I'll give you one. So we're playing Southern, and I didn't tell Kyle to go warm fast enough. It was 100% my fault. We hit a 3-run home run with a 2-strike counts, down by 2 in the ninth. Down by 3 in the ninth, tied the game. And kind of Kyle came in and he struggled. The only time he struggled the entire year. And Kyle and I were kind of talking out there on the mound, and saying, I just didn't get enough time to warm up. And as a coach, you don't really want to hear that.
Right.
It's not what you want to hear. First of all, you're being told truth, and you know that inside.
You don't want to know when you made a mistake.
That's right. But your pride gets you, and then the next day I told the team. I said, hey, I kicked that one, boys. I said there was no reason for him not to be warming up earlier. It's just one of those deals. If you coach enough of them, I guess you're going to kick a few of them. But what I'm getting at is I was more than happy to take that from Kyle. That's as much as I think about him.
Yeah.
As a player and a person, and he's just he's going to do great things. If you need somebody as your doctor and he is in the area, I promise you that's the guy you want working on.
Well, that's
for sure.
And to me, Bobby, he's kind of the perfect example of why this and I'm paid to use words and be eloquent, but I'm going to just be blunt. It sucks. It sucks for a kid like Kyle Swanson because he had battled back from multiple injuries. He was having the season that he had always wanted to have. He was your closer. He'd had 4 saves. His ERA was 1. He was doing everything you wanted to do and had already been accepted into medical school. So this should have been his beautiful wave off into the next portion of his life. And instead he got hit by an oil tanker passing by in the channel. It's amazing to me to have to deal with that as a kid. We all talk about dealing with adversity, but that's, in the world of college athletics, that's some real adversity that he's overcome and now has been thrown back on his plate.
Yeah, it breaks your heart. It really does. It absolutely breaks your heart when you go back and look at everything he's done. But and only because it's Kyle, and he's had a great outlook on it. He really has. He's really. I've never seen him feel sorry for himself versus all the injuries he's had. Never seen him with his head down. I think our younger pitchers got so much better this year because of Kyle and Logan. You mentioned Logan, and Logan's also because of those older guys that were able to bring him along. So whether they don't get to see him pitch the entire season or get to be around the whole season, there's a lot of time from August to March, that we're together that they get to learn. And, man, just very grateful. He was a demon, that's for sure.
No doubt about it. Talking to Bobby Barbier, the head baseball coach for Northwestern State. And, Bobby, you brought up, and I had mentioned earlier, Logan Hoffman. Here's another interesting guy. And the interesting aspect of this is, correct me if I'm wrong, the baseball draft has been greatly reduced coming up this summer. So, he's a guy that likely was going to be drafted reasonably high. He's put together already an amazing start to the season. He's your Friday night guy. And he's running out there without giving up an earned run in 28 innings. He was having an insane season already, was likely going to be a high draft pick. Now, with the reduced draft, what happens to a kid like Logan Hoffman?
Well, we don't really know yet.
Yeah.
He's a junior, so he does have, and he'll be a junior again, so he does have another year of leverage, which is good. That's one of the better things that came from that judgment is that, it's some of these juniors that may not be first or second rounders. If they don't get picked in whatever they have, a 5 or a 10 round draft, if they don't get picked in there, they'll still have leverage next year, which those guys in the MLB think is very important. So I don't know why no other sport thinks it's important, but we do in MLB.
Right.
Man, I hope it works out for him. I really do. I truly believe that Logan is one of the best pitchers we've ever had here in the history of the school. And I've been around a little while, probably any coaching, knowing the guys that have been here. You mentioned the no earned runs in 28 innings. Well, he pitched probably about 20 innings of inter-squad games in the fall and spring, and he gave up 1. And that was actually an RBI single from Kyle Swanson, oddly enough. He gave up 1. I think he gave up 2 hits and 1 walk and 1 earned run in 20 innings of inter-squad. So it wasn't just an early season being hot type deal. He has been great since he's come. Turned down money to come here, and if it's a 5 or 10 round draft, I feel pretty certain it's a 10 round draft that he'll be taken.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope so. And I think there's still a decent chance in the 5 round draft. So it's kind of one of those deals as much as you would love to have him back. I hope he I hope he gets the opportunity that he came here for. He came here to get better and improve his draft stock and help us win. Well, I think he did all those things.
Well,
just go from a late 20, early 30 round draft pick to hopefully a top 5 or 10 round draft pick. Hopefully money goes up, which it should if it's in that area, and hopefully he thinks he got better, and I know for sure he helped us win.
No, you won a third of your games. Those were his
right.
At this point. Bobby, let's talk about the financials of this. You mentioned, the good news is as you said, you only have a 5-man senior class, and you already know Kyle Swanson's gone. So you don't have overwhelming numbers of, okay, your roster is going to go up by double digits for this season. But walk me through the process of, the NCAA ruling gave you a lot of flexibility in terms of, okay, we can massage the scholarship money. You're already in a sport that's not fully funded in terms of scholarships anyway. What's the conversations been like with you, with your guys, with your coaches about, do you change scholarship levels for certain guys? Do you massage things? How do you work that?
Well, it's still pretty early in the process.
Well, yeah, the vote was yesterday, so I know.
Yeah, so
I know you don't have a lot of concrete stuff, but I'm just curious about the conversations about that.
Yes. So the way it's going to work is the seniors. I mean, they can be on up to what they were on before. So to give you some numbers, we have 5 seniors returning. I should have been more specific with that. So we have 5 returning, and they're going to cost us between 2.5 scholarships to universities. So as far as part of my 11.7, that doesn't touch the 11.7. So we're in pretty good shape as far as the 11.7 and what we have that are juniors and below and guys coming in. We just have to figure out as a department how we're going to fund. And it's not just mine. It's like selfishly, you just say, "Oh, well, 2 scholarships, we can figure it out." But I mean, track's got scholarships, softball's got scholarships.
Yeah.
I don't know the number for the department. But I do know it's bigger than 2, so, scholarships are worth, depending on in-state or out-of-state, $20,000 or $30,000. So it's going to be, it's something that we've all got to put our heads together as a department and figure out, and, I know Greg is in, I mean, he voted for it. So, it's one of those deals where we think we did the right thing. And as a membership, we did the right thing, but now we've got to get our hands dirty and figure out how we're going to raise this money when I'm sure it's not easy for people to give money during these times. So we have created another problem, but I think we created a problem with good intentions.
Yeah, and that to me is kind of the overarching thing here. And I know Jason Pugh put your quote out this morning. In the end, this is about doing the right thing for the kids.
That's it. And there will be teams that has to have hard conversations with players on their roster. There's no doubt about that. There'll be teams that have to do that. That for nothing else, we just have too many numbers. I mean, just think about some of the SEC teams, right? I mean, a 5-round draft. So if you got a bunch of guys that you expected to be, 6th to 15th rounders, well, you got juniors, 5 or 6 juniors, and if you're any good, you're going to have that in those schools. Well, then you also probably got 5 or 6 incoming kids, and then, God forbid you got seniors on top of that are going to be returning. Well, you might have 55 players show up to your school. And you have real problems, and problems that you figure out. But what I'm saying is that it gives us and it gives the kids a chance to, so kids that from other teams that maybe they have to move on, they have a chance to play the year somewhere, and that's the most important thing. There are going to be some hair falling out of some of these head coaches that luckily we don't have to manage that here right now, but there'll be a lot of good players looking for places to go.
Well,
and then we got the one-time transfer rule coming up, so there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
With this situation now.
And the good news is, look, your coaching staff by and large has pretty good heads of hair, so we don't want to see any of those getting lost.
That's right.
Yeah. Look, Bobby, I love you, man. I'm glad that this is working out okay for you, and obviously I know you'll guide things through the right spot. And next time you're cooking some brisket, give me a call, man.
You got it, buddy.
All
Take
right.
care, man.
All right, Bobby Barbier. I talked over and saying, "See you, Raj." Bobby Barbier, head baseball coach for the Northwestern State Demons.